Rhode Island, the ocean state. There is water everywhere, and I love it. Growing up in Charlestown, Rhode Island was nothing but a privilege. We had the ocean, ponds, rivers, immediately accessible to us. It was absolutely incredible. In the summer of 1982, I was not yet 10 years old, and I was at the backyard birthday party of one of my friends. They had a raft hastily tied to the water's edge like a makeshift dock, and one by one, each kid would jump off that dock into the water. I remember to this day that feeling of freedom when I leapt into the air. I also remember the coldness of the water as it enveloped me. And I even remember my toes squishing into the murky sand below. And as I go to pop back up like every kid before me, bam, I hit my head. I open my eyes, and the first thing I see is nails. I am under the raft, and I am terrified. I can't breathe. I am flailing out of control. And I will never forget that feeling for as long as I live. The same current that took me under the raft brought me out to the other side. The whole event was probably 15 seconds, but it was the most harrowing 15 seconds of my life. I learned one essential truth that day. I never wanted to be caught under the raft again. I would have been fine had I just stayed on the raft. When you feel fear, you want safety. And when you feel discomfort, you want comfort. And when you feel like you are flailing out of control, all you want is to control your situation. I discovered I found comfort and safety in cookies. Lots of cookies. It started with an extra cookie here, then a sleeve of cookies there. Next thing you know, I was just stealing bags of cookies out of the pantry and hoarding the evidence under my bed. I'm the sixth of 7 children. We always had food. Who could ever really account for who was eating what? Here's how my food cycle went. I noticed that when I was feeling these emotions of fear, anxiety, if I was ever angry, food would put distance between me and that feeling. So I would eat, and I would feel better. And then I'd eat a little more, and I'd feel even better. And then I'd continue to eat, and then I'd feel stuffed and guilty and ashamed. And what happens when you don't want to feel? You eat. That was the hamster wheel I spent 30 years on, topping out at my heaviest recorded weight of 425 pounds. For a long time, I tried to pretend that my weight didn't bother me. I was the girl who was always laughing, and I was quick to crack a joke about my weight because it was infinitely better if I said something than if you did. It's not without effort that I remained fat. I've tried diet after diet after diet for years. I would meet with some success, and then as soon as the weight would go, it would come right back. Hamster wheel, hamster wheel, hamster wheel. Living your life as a super morbidly obese person can be very challenging. Now, super morbidly obese is the technical term for any person who has a body mass index of 45 or above. A 5'5" female like myself, weighing 425 pounds, my BMI was 70. It gets to your self-esteem to a place where even if someone wanted to date me, I would seriously question their motives. For the first 2 years of my relationship with the man who is now my husband, I spent lurking around corners, waiting for the big surprise, I really don't want to be with you. And truth be told, I probably wouldn't have blamed him. When I finally did settle into belief that he did love me just the way I was, that he loved me just the way that I was, it was almost a challenge to me personally, as it was to society at large. We got married when I was 39 years old. When my father was a kid, his mother passed away of a heart attack 5 days before Christmas. She was 39 years old. What should have been the most joyous time of my life, planning my wedding, in the back of my head, I had this suspicion, this fear, this anxiety. Is that going to be me? Is this going to be my year? Another diet, another attempt, another failure. Which brings me to January 1st, 2014. I remember the day because it's the new year, and my daughter was home from Regina University on holiday break, and she was intent on cleaning my office. Now, the clean gene in my family went straight from my mother, skipped me, and went to my daughter. So she was all about it. She was like, okay, Mom, new year, new day. We're cleaning that office tomorrow. I woke up on January 1st before her, thankful that I would have a couple of minutes, because when she's on a tear for something, oh, it's going to happen. In my home, I could never make it past the 5th stair without stopping. I would have to stop, collect my breath, and then plow forth the rest of the way. After my 5-step break, I start back up the stairs, and my knee goes out. And I grab the banister, and the screw comes out of the wall, plaster hitting the floor. And in that instant, I knew I was going to fall. Falling down the stairs is dangerous. Falling down the stairs at 400 pounds can kill you. I didn't fall, but I was absolutely shook. My daughter hears the ruckus, comes out of the room. Are you okay? I'm fine. I am fine. Inside, I am not fine. I am absolutely freaking out. Okay, we're doing that office today. Let's go. I walk up the stairs the rest of the way, my knee on fire and my heart beating through my chest. When we were done with the office, it was beautiful, and I have to say it was the most organized it had been in years. My daughter said, I'm going to take some pictures to show Grandma. She's going to be so excited. Awesome. I am going to take a nap. She goes, you've earned it. I had a futon in the side of my office, and I took a nap there. Hours later, I woke up in my pristine office, very proud of myself, and I decided to look through the pictures that she took. And there I go, and then all of a sudden, I see a picture that sucked the air out of my lungs. It was me on the futon. I took up the whole futon, and I looked as tired and as sick as I have felt inside. Everything I ever tried to hide in a photograph was on that picture, and it only went to my mother, and I was so embarrassed. It was time to do something again. I decided to look into weight loss surgery. I had looked at it for years, but I'm the type of person who would watch my 600-pound life double fisting Ben & Jerry's, thinking, well, at least I'm not that bad, right? I'm okay, I'm good. Maybe when I get there, I'll do it. Like my 30 years of obesity was clearly not enough of an indicator that I may need some additional help. But then I read an article that changed my life by changing my perspective. It was written by a cardiologist who was talking about how everyone thinks weight loss surgery is so drastic. I was on team drastic. Weight loss surgery seems pretty drastic. Then he wrote this: as a cardiologist, every single day, I take a vein from somebody's leg and I thread it through their heart. And no one says that's drastic. But that's drastic. For the first time, weight loss surgery wasn't a place where people went where they had no option. Weight loss surgery became a medical, surgical procedure that could very well change my life. I did my research in earnest, and I was getting more and more excited with everything I read, everything I saw. And to quell this excitement, I had to bring in the big guns. My number one fan, my biggest supporter, my husband. And I'm thinking he is gonna be thrilled. So he comes in and I go, Jeff, I wanna have weight loss surgery. And he goes, no. What? Why? He goes, oh, no. Don't do that for me. I love you just the way you are. People die doing that. That was the day I had to share some very painful truths with my husband. The first truth is that every day that I'm alive like this, I am staring death in the face. I could leave here today and get hit by a bus. So death is no longer an option to be utilized to stop this process. But what I didn't tell him was that all I really wanted was this surgery was for me, because I wanted to love me the way he loves me. And I couldn't. In December of 2014, after nearly a year of pre-op testing and counseling, I had R&Y gastric bypass with the full support of my family. Now, I've tried a lot of diets in my day, literally all of them, like all of them. And I noticed that there was one thing that was missing from every single diet, every last one. I wanted to go to bed at 400 pounds and wake up at 150 with no further effort on my part. So, a lot of people think that weight loss surgery is like that you have surgery and you just kind of move on with your day and there's no further effort on your part necessary. But then you learn that eating well and movement is essential to long-term success. Essential. And there's a lot of work in weight loss surgery, and a lot of people aren't aware of that either. I started moving more. I started walking, and then I started running. And I decided that I was going to run the New York City Marathon because it had been a 20-year dream of mine to run a marathon. It's like the ultimate endurance competition that I was sure to be last in. But I wanted to do this on one particularly long training run, because marathon training is long and you're alone a lot with nothing but your thoughts. And I had just completed an 11-mile training run, and I ran into somebody that I hadn't seen in years. Oh my goodness, Regina, what are you doing? You look great. Oh, thank you. I had gastric bypass, and then I started face changed. Oh, surgery. I was so hoping you worked for it. I felt like I was punched in the stomach. And then I got angry because, yes, I had surgery. It did not surgically remove my love of ice cream, and it certainly didn't run 11 miles. But then I had to remember, there is no stigma in heart bypass. There's lots of stigma in gastric bypass, and a lot of people don't understand what gastric bypass is or does. And so I decided that I was going to make it my mission to change the hearts and minds of people who are considering gastric bypass, to not make it feel like they are doing some horrible, drastic, elective thing. This could be something that is life-saving. But a funny thing happened on my way to changing everybody's minds. I happened to change my own. I was always the largest person in a room, always. I used to wear light sweaters at the beach because I was so embarrassed about my arms. I hated my arms, hated them. And then I realized that these jiggly arms hugged my grandfather before he died. And this stomach that I could not stand, the stomach that I wished was anything but what it was, brought two beautiful children into the world. And these legs, for the longest time, everything from my calves to the top of my thighs would rub and chafe and rub and chafe, and I was so embarrassed by the rubbing and chafing, and I hated the rubbing and chafing. But I never stopped to be grateful that I was walking, and that is a gift that is not bestowed to everyone. My body had value. So then I thought back to that day on the raft, and what happened when I went in the water, what really happened when I hit my head, is that I went into the water with a spirit of fear, and I went into the water with a spirit of adventure, and I emerged with a spirit of fear, and I allowed that to color every single part of my life after that. But then, just like that, something can come along and shift your perspective and change what you thought you already knew about something. And it doesn't matter if it's 30 years later. You can look at any event with a fresh set of eyes and see something beautiful in it. And that's the real lesson. See, you could lose 250 pounds. You can finish the largest marathon in the world. But the point, the value, the lesson is that even if you do none of those things, you are beautiful, amazing, and you have value just the way you are right here, right now, today. Thank you.